Okay, today is the 11th of August, and we are on this Salayatana Samyutta, the 35th chapter of the Samyutta Nikaya. Now we come to 35.70, 70. Then the Venerable Upavana approached the Blessed One and said to him, "Venerable Sir, it is said, the directly visible Dhamma, In what way, Venerable Sir, is the Dhamma directly visible, immediate, inviting one to come and see, applicable, to be personally experienced by the wise?" I'll stop here for a moment. When we chant the praise of the Dhamma, we chant Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipasiko. This is the one. Sanditiko is directly visible. Akaliko is not depending on time, immediate. Akaliko Ehipasiko, inviting one to come and see. All these words. So he's asking the Buddha, what do you mean by that? And the Buddha said, "Here Upavana, having seen a form with the eye, among experiences the form, as well as lust for the form, he understands that lust for forms exists internally thus. There is in me lust for forms internally. Since that is so, Upavana, the Dhamma is directly visible, immediate, inviting one to come and see, applicable, to be personally experienced by the wise. Further, Upavana, having heard a sound with the ear, odor with the nose, a taste with the tongue, a touch with the body, having cognized thought with the mind, among experiences the sense object, as well as lust for the sense object. He understands that lust for the sense object exists internally thus. There is in me lust for the sense objects internally. Since that is so, Upavana, the Dhamma is directly visible, immediate, inviting one to come and see, applicable, to be personally experienced by the wise. But here, Upavana, having seen a form with the eye, among experiences the form without experiencing lust for the form, he understands that lust for forms does not exist internally thus. There is in me no lust for forms internally. Since that is so, Upavana, the Dhamma is directly visible, immediate, inviting one to come and see, applicable, to be personally experienced by the wise. Similarly, with sounds, smells, taste, touch, and thoughts, he understands that lust for these sense objects do not exist internally. Since that is so, the Dhamma is directly visible, immediate, inviting one to come and see, applicable, to be personally experienced by the wise. So here, the Buddha is saying that a lot of the Dhamma that is taught, if we contemplate, actually we can experience it here and now. For example, the simple thing like karma vipaka. We should do some deed to help others, to benefit others. Immediately we get a happy feeling. And if we do something to harm others, sometimes just saying the wrong word, sometimes after that you feel your conscience pricking you. But then we must understand, when we are compassionate to others, we also have to be compassionate to ourselves, because we are not Arahant yet. So sometimes we say things a bit careless. So sometimes it hurts others. So the Buddha says always to examine our karma. Whatever we do, whatever we say, whatever we think. What is past also we contemplate. What we are doing now we contemplate. And before we do something also we contemplate. That's how we keep our three karmas clear, clean. So the Buddha is saying this one The first part is for the ordinary person. An ordinary person, when they experience contact at the six senses, I mean seeing a form, a beautiful form, hearing beautiful music, smelling nice perfume, or tasting good food, or having pleasant touch, or pleasant thoughts and all that, then lust arises. But then one who has cultivated himself, after many years, he has cultivated himself, done a lot of meditation, the mind becomes stronger, and he has studied the Dhamma, and he has absorbed it. Then when the six senses impinge on him, then he doesn't react in the same way. The mind is much stronger, not easily shaken by all these external objects. Next sutta is 35.74. At Savatthi, then a certain monk approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side and said to him, Venerable Sir, in such and such a dwelling there is a certain newly ordained monk, not well known, who is sick, afflicted, gravely ill. It would be good, Venerable Sir, if the Blessed One would approach that monk out of compassion. Then when the Blessed One heard the words, newly ordained and sick, he understood that he was not a well-known monk. He went to him. That monk saw the Blessed One coming in the distance and stirred on his bed. The Blessed One said to him, Enough, monk, do not stir on your bed. There are these seats ready, I will sit down there. The Blessed One then sat down on the appointed seat and said to that monk, I hope you are bearing up, monk. I hope you are getting better. I hope that your painful feelings are subsiding and not increasing, and that their subsiding, not their increase, is to be discerned. And he said, Venerable Sir, I am not bearing up, I am not getting better. Strong, painful feelings are increasing in me, not subsiding, and their increase, not their subsiding, is to be discerned. And the Buddha said, I hope then, monk, that you are not troubled by remorse and regret. Indeed, Venerable Sir, I have quite a lot of remorse and regret. I hope, monk, that you have nothing for which to reproach yourself in regard to virtue. And he said, I have nothing, Venerable Sir, for which to reproach myself in regard to virtue. Then, monk, if you have nothing for which to reproach yourself in regard to virtue, why are you troubled by remorse and regret? I understand, Venerable Sir, that it is not for the sake of purification of virtue that the Dhamma has been taught by the Blessed One. He is saying, what I understand, that the purpose of the Dhamma is not to purify Sila only. And the Buddha said, if, monk, you understand that the Dhamma has not been taught by me for the sake of purification of virtue, then for what purpose do you understand the Dhamma to have been taught by me? Venerable Sir, I understand the Dhamma to have been taught by the Blessed One for the sake of the fading away of lust. Good monk, it is good that you understand the Dhamma to have been taught by me for the sake of the fading away of lust. For the Dhamma is taught by me for the sake of the fading away of lust. What do you think, monk? Is the eye permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, mind permanent or impermanent? And it says, impermanent, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering or happiness? Suffering, Venerable Sir. Is what is impermanent suffering and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. No, Venerable Sir. Seeing thus, the noble disciple becomes disenchanted with the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body and the mind. And becoming disenchanted, he becomes dispassionate and he attains liberation. This is what the Blessed One said. Elated, that monk delighted in the Blessed One's statement. And while this discourse was being spoken, there arose in that monk the dust-free, stainless vision of the Dhamma. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation. In other words, he attained the Dhamma vision and attained stream entry. You see this sutta, why this monk said he was troubled by remorse and regret, and then when the Buddha asked him, why are you troubled by remorse and regret? He said, I understand that it is not for the sake of purification of virtue or sila that the Dhamma has been taught by the Blessed One. Maybe because there are some monks, they are not too fussy about precepts because they think precepts are important, but some monks get carried away too far. They are too particular about precepts. But maybe he's not too particular about precepts because he feels that the purpose of the Dhamma is not mainly for the purification of virtue. Purification of virtue is just a stepping stone. He understands that the purpose of the Dhamma is to cut off lust. And then, so why does he have remorse? Because sometimes if a monk like this is not too particular about precepts, although generally his precepts are okay, only minor points, he's not so fussy. But other monks who are very fussy, they can be very critical. So when they're very critical, it is always finding fault with him. So he feels very uneasy. So when he told the Buddha that the Dhamma is taught not for purification of a virtue, the Buddha then asked him, if that's the case, what do you understand the Dhamma is for? And he said it's for the cutting off of lust, and the Buddha agreed. The final purpose is to cut off lust and craving. That is the way to liberation. Only thing is, there's some other sutta where the Buddha talked about the various stages of progress. In the beginning, sila is one of the things at the bottom. As you go higher, there are other things that are more important. So some monks, they are too fussy about sila. They concentrate on sila and they don't progress. They just stay there. So this monk, the Buddha agreed with him. And so after listening to the Buddha, he attained vision of the Dhamma. 35.81. Then a number of monks approached the Blessed One and said to him, "Here, Venerable Sir, wanderers of other sects ask us, for what purpose, friends, is the holy life lived under the ascetic Gotama, Samana Gotama? When we are asked thus, Venerable Sir, we answer those wanderers thus. It is, friends, for the full understanding of suffering that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One. We hope, Venerable Sir, that when we answer thus, we state what has been said by the Blessed One and do not misrepresent him with what is contrary to fact, that we explain in accordance with the Dhamma, and that no reasonable consequence of our assertion gives ground for criticism." And the Buddha said, "For sure, monks, when you answer thus, you state what has been said by me and do not misrepresent me with what is contrary to fact. You explain in accordance with the Dhamma, and no reasonable consequence of your assertion gives grounds for criticism. For monks, it is for the full understanding of suffering that the holy life is lived under me. But monks, if wanderers of other sects ask you, what, friends, is that suffering for the full understanding of which the holy life is lived under the ascetic Gotama? Being asked thus, you should answer them thus. The I, friends, is suffering. It is for the full understanding of this that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One. Forms are suffering. Whatever feeling arises with eye contact as condition, that too is suffering. Similarly for the others, senses, the ear, the nose, the tongue, body and mind, and the sense objects, and then the feeling that arises